onions are alive. You leave an onion on the counter, it'll grow. You leave a potato under the sink, it'll grow. It will actually grow and sprout and try its best to survive. When you leave meat laying out, it will grow bacteria, but it's not going to grow. So you have to understand the principles of life.
Can I add one thing on what you just said?
Yeah.
See, the reason why these plants even keep growing, why they're detached from their life source, which is the vine or the tree that they come from, is because the information that's inside of the seed is inside of the fruit or the vegetable itself. Because imagine how you could come from something and then all of a sudden try to detach yourself from that as if you're not a part of that. Okay, even though it's been served from the plant, the whole ideal of the genetics still give it the information to try to continue to grow. So you can watch an orange with a short leaf on it that you take off a tree actually use the fluids of itself to sustain growth of its branch, to keep it growing. That right there is enough substantial proof to me to prove that there is a spiritual as well as a material life force going on in all vegetation on this planet. As a matter of fact, one more thing. If the average human being would just take time out to hug a tree, just go walk up to any given tree and hug it.
I've done that.
What happened? Tell me what happened when you hug the tree.
If you hug a tree with an open mind, you will feel the tree hug you back.
Can you feel the affection come from a tree? You can, can't you? Do you believe that when birds live in a tree, that they look at a tree as if it's just something that's there? Do you think a bird would look at a tree at the same aspect as it looks as a piece of lumber that has fallen from being a tree and became a processed board made by man? Would a bird look at that board at the same method it would look at a tree?
No.
Why not?
I'm confident that a bird awareness of nature is high enough to where it notices when trees are gone.
That's right.
When a bird migrates for the winter and comes back and their forest is gone,
they know. They say, what happened?
When they land in a grass field because
the tree is gone,
mankind wiped it out, or a flood or whatever natural disaster destroyed it after the season left, they come back to this barren area and they know that the tree is gone. They know that.
Not only do they know that the tree is gone, they know what happened to it. Because they've been witnessing it forever. So to foolishly suggest that the plants don't live is just like saying that the birds will come back to an area that they knew a tree was at without realizing that the tree has been destroyed. For some reason, I guess they're going to think that the bird is going to say, wait a minute, did we come back to the right spot? That bird is going to come there and say, damn.
What happened to my tree?
No, they ain't going to say what happened to the tree. They know what happened to the tree.
Those humans moved my tree.
Tell the story about the mimic bird that you used to tell me about.
I don't remember.
Remember you told me about the bird that was in the forest?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me that. Tell that
this
story.
This is a good one. Okay, so obviously I spent a lot of time learning what I do. There was a program, I believe it was Believe It or Not. And they had this bird. It was called the mimic bird. And no, it was called the lyre bird.
That's correct.
The name of it was actually the lyre bird. That was what they named it, the lyre bird. And this bird attracted a mate by making sounds. It could create any various sounds, and it would create these sounds, and it would use these sounds to attract mates, so it could reproduce, which is basically part of life. So the mimic bird, the lyre bird, it did something very interesting. That's, it's been mimicking sounds, bears, squirrels, rabbits, all types of life. It always mimicked life forms all the time, and humans pretty much just ignored it because it wasn't interesting. But it did something very interesting, and I'm kind of glad that my father actually brought this back up, because it goes back to my whole point about the principles of life as they're described by science. What it did was it mimicked the sound of a chainsaw, which is the reason why they called it the lyre bird. The reason why the bird mimicked the sound of a chainsaw is because it heard so many chainsaws in its natural habitats that it started to actually recreate that sound to attract a mate to reproduce offspring. And you have to really think about that. I'm sure the point hasn't actually hit home, so let me explain. The mimic bird mimics sounds that it hears in its environment so that it can attract a mate, so that it can reproduce its life forms. The mimic bird was exposed to the artificial sound of a chainsaw, when human beings came into its ecosystem and cut down trees. It heard the sound of chainsaws for so many generations, it started to actually mimic it and actually use that to attract mates, because its mates would recognize it also. They heard it so much that it became actually part of their reproduction, which is why science uses adaptation as one of its roles in its description of the principles. The bird actually adapted to the new sound that was an artificial sound, machine, mechanical. Its biological ability to sustain its own life adapted to the destruction that was occurring in its ecosystem so that it could continue to survive.
And see, the ironic part about that is that's exactly what happened to the melanated people of this earth. Because we got exposed to all the different changes around the earth due to the arrival of the European man. I say man more than anything because most of the politics and of course they have the women that help them, but the biggest motivating factor of the type of rituals that they push out toward people that they make as opposite or opposition, in other words non-white people, is really why other non-white people has fallen so low around earth and is doing so bad. And it's even so bad now that even they themselves is turning around to be victimized bad, because the earth decadence is really based on, if you treat the people wrong, it's the same as treating the earth wrong, because the people are the earth. You see what I mean? The birds are the earth, the trees are the earth, the water is the earth. And this spiritual thing about the earth is what's been overlooked by the Europeans, and is what's being destroyed. And everybody else, because they're forced into a life form or lifestyle that's synonymous with them, is forced to mimic them. Just like the bird you was just talking about.
And it's oppositional to
you see,
and after force.
It's the oppositional to, because now like that bird started mimicking the chainsaw. When left alone, it would be able to pick a sound that it noticed a certain woman like, because guess what? She'll be making the same sound. So I'm sure that the reason why the men started mimicking the sound of the chainsaw is because the women started doing it first. So the women would probably set it up to the male like what she liked, what she's interested in. If she heard a bear and she liked the sound of the bear and she imitated the bear sound.
That's actually how it worked.
That's the way it would work.
It attracted the sound for the women because of the male-female duality, and the woman, the sound was synonymous to the familiarity of its environment. So when the mimic bird mimicked a particular sound, and it always chose a rare sound,
right,
it would attract
the male,
the mate, the female, based on her exposure to that sound.
Right.
So that was how it would select a mate. She would be attracted to this particular sound, because you have to remember, there's no reason for a bird to go towards something that is dangerous. So if the mimic bird is mimicking a chainsaw sound, which is synonymous with danger for animals, there's no reason for the mates to actually be attracted to it. But because of the way that their biology has evolved, they're not attracted so much to the danger, they're attracted to the familiarity.
Right. They see it so common. Right. It was so common.
And that's what the bird, and that's how nature designed them to adapt and grow and change.
That's absolutely right. So now, excuse me, but I'm glad you bring that up, and I want to add, back to black people now, eating meat, smoking cigarettes, overindulging in carnal pleasures, all the things that is the hatred, the non-respect to nature, all these things now that is so globally spreading is all based on the fact that we've been introduced to a nation of people that actually denationalized us. Let me explain to you what I mean. We are a people in this country that it's been made perfectly clear to us that we are not citizens here. After Hurricane Katrina and all this stuff that's been going on with slavery and everything, if you are a melanated person, when I say melanated, you know what I mean. I mean Negro, black, colored, all those descriptions that they give us other than Americans. That alone is proof that what I'm saying is true. Okay, the treatment, the disadvantages, and everything that is a part of what has been a condition in America, which is fascism, is all contributed to us as a people acting the same way, man and woman, to each other, mimicking the common rituals that was around us by them. Look at us. The Christmas thing, the Easter thing, Veteran Days, Valentine's Day. What the hell would we be doing celebrating the 4th of July when they got their independence from Britain that they never got because Britain's still running everything. But my point is, it's all fake as hell. So why would we as black people who were still chained up in the bar any damn way, when they talked all that crap, we were still, they didn't mean us. So my point is, most of the garbage that's on this earth, and most of the problems we have on this earth, is based on the denationalization of one race of people. Really, it's only one race on this earth. We know that. First, it was the dichotomization of one race. Okay?
That's where it started.
That's where it started.
We got black and white from.
That's where we got black and white at. Right. Okay, but then after the dichotomization comes the individual attacks. What I mean is this. You a nigga. You a Mexican.
Yeah.
You is a Puerto Rican. You is a Jew. You all that. See? And then when you get a job application, they have all these names on there. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? They have all those names on there, don't they? And it shouldn't even be there. The only thing that should be there is a slot for your name. And that's all.
It shouldn't even say
gender or nothing. Age, none of that.
It shouldn't even say it's not necessary for you to fill out this part of your ethnicity. It's pretty voluntary. It shouldn't even be on there.
It shouldn't be there. I agree.
It shouldn't even be on the application.
Right. So we know that,
especially when an application is a legal document, which means that if I have this document and it says I don't have to fill out my nationality, the trick is that let's say that I put white down. There's no who says that I'm not white. If I put white down, what that does is that gives the employer the ability to look at that and pass judgment on me as an individual, because he can say, well, you're obviously not white and you just forfeited your right to this job by forging this document. But we don't recognize that as American citizens because we don't spend enough time trying to understand the system we live in. We just go with the flow, and that's why telling people that plants aren't alive bothers me, because that is the fundamental reason why people are able to even generate values like that in their mind.
That's right.
Because we just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if a book says anything. My father, this individual standing in front of me, is my father. If he was to try to tell me at any age in my life plants were not alive,
hold on, wait.
We would have went to war.
No, wait, hold on. Even bigger than that. Even worse than that. Imagine if I would have tried to give you a God other than yourself when you was growing up as a child. Did you ever see any pictures of Jesus around our house when you was a child growing up?
The only thing that I ever was exposed to from you is true.
And so I can't have a picture of somebody else on the wall and tell you this person is going to make your life good for you. Who's going to make your life good for you?
My father.
And who else?
And me.
That's it. That's it. Nobody else can do it. I mean, somebody else could come in your life to help you, but if you don't want to do nothing, they could give you all the help in the world. But if you don't want to do anything, what's going to happen? They just going to waste their time, right?
Stagnation. In my opinion, stagnation is equal and opposite opposition.
That's what it is.
If a force of, that's why I like science. If a force of 1 pound is going in this direction, the force of 1 pound is going in that direction. When they hit, they equal each other out, and that is what we describe as stagnation. If you have a car that's driving down the street at 40 miles an hour, and another car driving down the street in the opposite direction at 40 miles an hour, bumper to bumper, their tires will spin, but they won't move.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the principles that we don't understand, because we're so busy being told that the Bible is absolute, and that you're not allowed to challenge it, you're not allowed to believe it, you're not allowed to question it, is that if you have a God, and we understand the value of a God, if you have a God and you have another God, and they're in opposition, it will create stagnation. It's a fundamental principle of science. Two gods in opposition will always create stagnation.
So do you
and that's what we see every day in our society. We got
Muslim, which is Islam.
Yep.
We have Judaism, and we have Christianity. Now the war in Iraq right now is a Christian.